make sure to stay tuned to the end of this video for a really cool surprise.
Hi everybody and welcome to eleVIVO's YouTube channel. Today we're doing another in our series of Thriving with Low Vision. So I'd like to introduce Mr. Sam Atwood, very handsome gentleman, wearing his glasses and sitting in his living room. He lives in Portland, Maine, and interesting thing about Mr. Atwood is he is a comic too. So you're on, Mr. Sam, go for it. Tell us a little about yourself.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle, for that very kind introduction. My name is Sam. I am 49 years old as of Halloween, and I have been legally blind all my life as a result of congenital glaucoma. So, diagnosed basically at birth with glaucoma. And have experienced a whole lot of variations of low vision, starting, from 4 or 5 through, say, 18, was what I'll refer to as a high partial. For those of you who maybe don't know that term, I was past the threshold of legal blindness, but had a lot of useful vision. Tended to access the world visually, used initially like a jeweler's loop that attached to my prescription glasses and was able to read regular print, transitioned to really crazy thick reading glasses that continued to allow me to read regular print most of the time. Stuck my nose as close to the computer screen as possible, but could read print on a computer screen, play video games with varying degrees of success, and did not use a mobility device. I should have used a mobility device. If I have any advice to high partials, use a mobility device, use a cane. The identification piece of that is so important and so valuable. And I, like so many people, worried about, looking like a blind kid, getting picked on, didn't want to, I wanted to fit in. But when you bump into things and fall downstairs, you really don't fit in. And people don't know why. And they think much worse things about you than that, you're blind or legally blind. At 19, I realized that I could no longer read regular print anymore. Actually remember the evening and the book I was reading. I never finished the Illuminati trilogy. I was about a couple hundred pages in when the reading glasses just didn't cut it anymore. And I spent the next 10 years slowly, very subtly losing vision. And in that time, got my first guide dog at 21, which was life-changing. Really, for the first time in my life, I could go for a walk and have it feel very comfortable, could walk with my head up instead of staring at the ground, trying to see, what the next thing to trip over or bump into was.
I have an important question for you. What was your doggie's name?
Oh, so if you remember, so this was the early 2000s, very early 2000s, and my beautiful male German Shepherd's name was Regis.
I love it.
The number of times, and this won't mean anything to young folks watching this, but to people in their 40s and over, it may, like the number of times I was asked if I wanted to be a millionaire or where Kelly or Kathy Lee was, countless. But Regis was a good boy, and was, again, that experience of just being able to move around the world really confidently was tremendous. I left Seattle after a couple of couple of jobs that I liked, but were short term, and then some jobs that I really didn't enjoy. And I took a job at the Florida Division of Blind Services, doing marketing, creating a monthly newsletter, and also working as a internal client advocate. Um, and it was really the first time that I was really connected to a blind community, working with a lot of other blind people, engaging with a lot of other blind people, learning from a lot of other blind people. Um, and it was it was really fortunate timing, because my vision was, undeniably getting worse. I transitioned from using visual access to a computer. I used Zoom Text, which is a large print program I'm sure some of you will be familiar with. Um, but when I finally acknowledged that I had to transition to a screen reader, I had like 2 words at a time on my computer screen. I mean, it was so inefficient. Things took so long. I had fought it for a long time, but again, was fortunate enough to be working for an agency, so was able to get um, intensive screen reader training, and never looked back, so to speak. So vision got worse. Images got blurrier and blurrier. Definition got worse. I was still able to see color. I've always been a big fan of color, and I've been able to see. Well, I'll get to that. But and then in my very early 30s, I had a surgery on my left eye, that actually restored some vision. And glaucoma isn't curable. The treatments generally just try to slow the process down. So to have a vision that actually restored some vision was completely unexpected. And obviously it was great. And it also didn't change how I was primarily interacting with the world. I was still using a screen reader. I was still using a dog or a cane. But I had this vision back that was, really, really nice to have. The world got brighter, images got sharper, um, and was, again, just completely unexpected. And about 10 years after that, I had left Florida. I was back, or not back, but I was working in Portland, Maine. I had finally gone back to school, taken it seriously, and graduated. I think I started when I was 38, graduated at 41 or 42. Um, was moved as soon as I graduated, living in Portland, Maine, working with unhoused veterans. Still had useful vision. What's that?
What kind of veterans do you work with? What population of veterans?
Um, all kinds, but my specific job was veterans experiencing either homelessness or some kind of housing stability. So I worked for an organization that facilitated a Veterans Administration grant to connect directly with veterans dealing with significant housing issues.
That's amazing work. And
it was really cool. It was really cool. I mean, it was really hard, but it was great work. I had done an internship working with vets as part of my graduating, and it's a population that I really enjoyed working with. Just happened to meet a really cool guy in a bar who was doing crazy work with trying to treat PTSD with skydiving. And
oh my.
and I heard that and I was like, this is what I want to do for my internship. So with that experience and then a degree in mental health and human services, got hired on by this organization, working with unhoused veterans. And about a year, and I moved to Portland right at the beginning of COVID. It was February of 2020. I started my job. Um, Vision was pretty unchanged through that year. The next year started to notice some deterioration. Um, but as some of the people watching this probably will relate to, changes in vision can be really subtle. And your brain works really hard to fill in the details. And you don't know until maybe you hit like one of those real landmark things. Like for me, when I realized that, I couldn't read regular print anymore. Um, in this case, things just got blurrier and blurrier. And I couldn't see color anymore. And that was really just a stunning change. Like it was something that no matter where my vision had been at the rest of my, prior in my life, I'd always been able to see color, and I couldn't do it anymore. And basically, my vision had gotten to the point of light perception, became really anxiety provoking, I guess. My brain was still telling me that I could see things, and the light was kind of feeding that idea. And then things like stairwells turned into crosswalks, and it was, yeah, it was, anyway, as a result of all that, and as a result of some sudden pain in my right eye, which had been no light perception for more than a decade, I ended up making the decision to have both eyes removed. And that, I think I had my, let's see, I think it was January of this year that I had my left eye removed, the one with the little bit of light perception. So transition to total blindness in January of 2025. So, and did end up having to go on disability to get the 2 surgeries done. I have spent various points in my life on disability. It's been really useful, and it's hard. Like disability is a hard thing to be on. But as of now, I'm deep into a job search, living in Portland, working as you said, working as a comic and a performer and a storyteller, and looking to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
Don't grow up.
I know,
Growing
right?
up is overrated.
I agree. I agree.
Stay young forever.
But income is not overrated.
There is that. If we get somebody to pay for us, that'd be good.
Yes.
So what is your favorite blind joke?
Oh boy. I mean, there's a classic about guy goes into a convenience store with a seeing eye dog. A dog guides him to the middle of the store, picks the dog up by the tail and starts spinning him around. And the shopkeeper's like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? What are you doing? And the guy says to the shopkeeper, oh, don't worry, I'm just looking around.
I like that.
So that's
I've
an
never
oldie
heard that
but a
one.
goodie.
It may be a classic, but I've never heard that one. That's
Oh, fair enough. Fair
so
enough.
it just made me smile.
Yeah.
So let's see. So when you were working with the Blind Low Vision Services, what piece of technology did you find that was the most helpful to people? For most people.
I mean, so I'm going to give you 2, and
Okay.
one of them is tech, and one of them is skill, or one of them is old. My parents were very interested and very insistent that I was going to be, a quote unquote normal, functional, like achieving human. And
What is that?
my mom recognized really early in like first grade, and this was way back when people were still taught cursive.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom went to the school system and said, this is dumb. There is no reason for Sam to read cursive or learn cursive. beyond a signature, and I'm requesting that you teach him to type as a reasonable accommodation. Um, and so I learned to touch type on a typewriter um, when I was in first grade.
Wow.
And, my mom was able to see, down the road, not very far, that computers were going to become, you know, very important in the world and in life for everybody.
Mom
So
was a smart lady.
very smart, still is. Um, so that was really important, knowing how to touch type. But overall, I think the most important tool that blind people have, like since Braille was created, is the iPhone, hands down.
Mhm.
I was really resistant to getting a smartphone. Um, I don't love to learn new technology. I am not one of those guys or gals that's into tech. I wish I was. It would make my life so much easier and more enjoyable. Um, but when I got an iPhone, all of a sudden, using really basic apps for the first time in my life, I could go through my mail independently using, at that time, what was OCR, or optical character recognition,
Mhm.
um, being able to, text with people. The degree to which Apple integrated voiceover, the accessibility piece, the screen reader on that phone, was just, I'd never worked with anything like it. And I'd worked with JAWS for years. And I'll define my terms again. Many of you are going to know, but JAWS is a screen reading software that is used on PCs. And I'd used that for years because I'd worked you know, in offices. Most organizations use PCs. Um, but it's also kind of a clunky uh, hog of a program that is constantly having to update itself as Microsoft changes what it does. So it always felt like it was a step or two behind and it was an add-on.
Mhm.
Whereas what Apple did with the iPhone was so integrated and provided so much access to so many things. It was, I again, I'll say, the most important tool since Braille.
Wow.
Um,
And I've heard that from so many people that I've met that are visually impaired. It's amazing how good the iPhones are. I blindfolded myself and messed with it, and it was like, I can do this. Oh,
yeah,
wow. That's
yeah.
really cool. And that's with
And
no training.
there are levels of accessibility. If you have low vision and want to use an iPhone, you can change the contrast, you can change the fonts, you can, use these other tools. And there are other forms of access for other types of disabilities that I have less understanding of. But they really did, I mean, hats off to Apple for making an effort to integrate that into the phone, to recognize that it would be a tremendous tool.
So
Um,
huge kudos to Apple for
Indeed.
the iPhone.
They're
Now,
a real pain in the butt in a lot of ways,
well,
but that is, that was a game changer, I think.
I'm
And
sighted and I use the blow up features in my iPhone because I am now over 40, which means I can't see close up very well.
right,
So I
right.
use mine that way too. So next question. So what do you do for fun?
Um, Comedy and performance are a big thing for me. They are uh, there. I'm taking steps down that being a professional road, but for right now, I've always been involved in theater in some kind. I did improv and theater club in high school. I worked with a really wild kind of all volunteer cabaret style theater that was run by a deaf woman in Florida. And we had a great time working together. And when I moved to Portland in 2020, I was working on a stand-up set. I'd always wanted to do stand-up. I was finally in a place where there were open mics. I was committed to doing it, and then COVID happened, locked the city down, and like 8 months later, I was just, things were reopening a little bit, and I was just like, nope, I got to do this. And did my first open mic and really haven't looked back. Love it. I'm a big reader. I love audiobooks. I've read all my life. So a lot of that. Spend a lot of time with friends, many of whom are comedians. And so anytime we go out, it's fun, but do a lot of open mics. I created a one-man show, kind of an auto drama for a Fringe Theater Festival this summer. I have not over the last year gotten outdoors as much as I like, but trying to change that. I'm just connected with a adaptive outdoor program here in Maine that provides, various kinds of support. I used to climb both indoor and outdoor, skiing, snowshoeing.
Oh, wow.
I
So very
I
active.
camped. I grew up like in an outdoor family. My dad is a big outdoors guy. We camped. Like I used to, practice building campfires in my sandbox.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, yeah.
I know there's a
I
group
mean,
in
I
Maine.
grew up in Maine. Let's
Yeah.
put that in there.
I know
So
there's a group in Maine that takes blinded veterans out moose hunting.
yep,
And that's
yep.
that blew
Yeah,
me away.
I'm familiar with that group. When I was doing my internship, I was interacting with a lot of people who were using different, resources for
Mhm.
vets. So familiar with them. There's a fly fishing group, and
Mhm. And the
and in fact,
kayaking
the
one.
organization that I just got connected with, they also do some veteran specific stuff, not just for the blind, but veteran disabled vets.
So there's lots out there to do. It's just finding it. Now, next question. So if say I was going blind, I was losing my vision, and it was just going to be a matter of time before I was low vision and then possibly blind, what would be the biggest piece of advice that you could tell me
Oof.
or pieces?
So just to clarify, like I have not had the experience of going from what we think of as normal vision to low vision or blindness.
Mm-hmm.
But I have had the experience of going from a lot of vision to no vision.
Mm-hmm.
So I just, put it in that.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some, I think there are two things. I think there's a skills piece and a mental health piece, and they're equally important. And they feed on each other in a good way and in a bad way. So I guess the two things I would say is one, do not ignore the mental health piece. Like you're losing something that has been tremendously important. And it is, there is going to be grief. There is going to be anger. There are going to be all the stages of, that cycle. And you need to not ignore them. And you need to seek out skills. Um, and so on one hand, the mental health piece is talking to family, talking to friends, finding people who you can share those feelings with. If you need to do therapy, do therapy. Therapy's great. Um, and then connecting with whatever organization you can find. I mean, here in the US, every state has some sort of state agency whose mission is to provide various types of support to blind people. Um, that said, those organizations can be hard to access in a really meaningful way, particularly early on when there are so many like feelings of doubt and fear and sort of hopelessness, like my life can never be what it was. And it can be what it was. It's gonna be a little different. Things are gonna happen a little differently, but like your life isn't over. Um, Getting training is crucial. And training, learning skills helps develop and counter that negative mental health stuff. And the better your mental health gets, the more skills, the more motivated you are to find, um, to really get back to living a life you want to live. And what I think is really hard early on is you don't have confidence necessarily. You don't have good self-advocacy skills. You don't even know what questions to ask. And often blind services, they're state programs, they're overworked, they're understaffed, they're underpaid. And to get the best results, in my experience, you have to be a squeaky wheel. Um, you have to not allow yourself to be ignored. Even they're not intending to ignore you, but they have a lot of cases. There's a lot of travel. I mean, particularly in a state like Maine, we've got, a single counselor that may be covering hundreds of miles, and have clients throughout the state. But you really have to push and ask questions. And some of those questions might be, I don't know anything. Tell me what's out there. Um, so, like that's a really legitimate question. You don't know what you don't know. So they're like, if somebody says, what do you need? It's like, it's unreasonable for them to expect you to know what you need.
I think that might be good advice for all of us, sighted or not sighted.
It's funny how that works, isn't it?
Well, we're all people.
Take care of your mental health and, develop skills
And
you
advocate for
know,
yourself. Yeah.
rely on and ask for help, from anyone you feel comfortable asking for help from, particularly, you I want to be and am in many ways a very independent, competent person. I've lived alone most of my life. I've had a variety of jobs. I, went through school, blah, 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 blah. But like all of us, and again, sighted or blind, have things that we need to ask for help with and times when we need to ask for help.
Yeah. What's the harm in asking? The only thing people can say is no, and then you go find somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, if it's early on, if you have a friend that'll sit down with you at the computer and like they will like, what's the thing that you're interested in? What's a hobby that you had? And look up blind, whatever. I was fortunate enough, I went to Africa to climb Kilimanjaro with a guy named Eric Weinmeier. Um, some of the people watching this probably know who he is. Some of them probably don't, but he's a blind guy that climbed Everest and kayaked the Grand Canyon solo.
And that's something I wouldn't be able to do.
No, I mean, most people can't, right? I mean, and most people aren't going to, and you don't need to climb Everest, but I just found out, I really like shoes. And I saw an ad for a pair of Adidas sneakers, and they were like a limited edition. And I clicked on the ad because they were in a color that I liked. And turns out they're a collaboration between Adidas and a visually impaired skateboarder.
That's wonderful.
And I was like, well, what the hell? What the heck is this? I was 48 years old. Like I had been there and done that. And like skateboarding had just never even been in my, like, that's not a thing. And I now own those shoes and a skateboard. But, there's crazy stuff out there. And, I can't see pictures anymore or watch videos anymore, but I can still listen. And there's so many great niche podcasts about all kinds of different hobbies. And we have so many ways to connect with specific groups. I mean, I learned about what you were doing because Facebook decided I needed to see the low vision Facebook group.
Mhm.
And I don't know what their membership is, but there are people on there. It's a really active group, and there are
About
people.
1,500, and
Is it?
there's a lot of people on that group. Yeah.
And they're content creators. Blindy Girl is one. When I started doing social media again, when I got back into comedy, and then when I started writing about taking my eyes out, I didn't take them out. I had professionals do that, but
That's probably
um,
wise.
Facebook, yeah, yeah. Trust me, there were times when I thought a lot about a sharpened spoon because it was a bit of a battle, but um, Facebook's algorithm decided I needed to see blind stuff. And all of a sudden there's Blindy Girl in my feed and Molly Burke in my feed. And
Have
it's
you seen
stuff that,
it's Angry Asian Uncles on YouTube?
no,
Oh God, I did an interview with him the other day, and he is hilarious.
I'll check that
So
out.
yeah, check
I'll
them
check
out.
that out.
Check them out. Shout out to Angry Asian Uncles because they are
Angry Asian Uncles.
very
Right.
funny. Yeah, they talk about the struggles of what they both have different abilities.
Mhm.
One is blind, and the other I don't remember. It's just not in my database at the moment in my head. But anyway, and they talk about being Asian in America,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
a whole different thing. So it's been a great listen.
Mhm.
I listen to them about twice a week now, and they're a
Nice.
lot of fun. So anyway, it's been wonderful talking to you, Sam. This has been awesome. And
You as well.
just in the vein of looking for help and getting help, what eleVIVO does is we are an online platform that finds services for people who are losing their vision. So it's everything from training to recreation to transportation to clinical research studies and everything in between. And it's really inexpensive. It's $10 a month, which is, that's, one latte at Starbucks these days.
Yeah.
So it's easy to access and it's a lot of fun. And if anybody wants to contact me, I'll have my contact information on the next page after the video. And we're willing to help. And this whole series is all about showing people that yes, you can thrive. Yes, there is life after low vision.
100%.
And then I
Low
get to talk
vision, no vision,
Yep.
you know,
And I get to talk to cool people like Sam.
and I get to talk to
It's
cool people like
wonderful.
Michelle.
And we get to make friends. So have the best day ever.
Mm.
And we will talk to you on the other side.
Peace, y'all.
And here's the surprise that we mentioned. Here's some fun and comedy from Mr. Sam Atwood.
I know what you're all thinking. What a handsome guy. And you're right, he is. But he's not just a pretty face. He is a highly trained seeing eye dog. And we all know that people use seeing eye dogs because they are blind. That's right. I use a seeing eye dog, ergo I am blind. Well-rested audience, love it. I need to get that point out. I have learned to get that out really clearly and really early in a show. I did a show once where a third of the audience left thinking I was a drunk duck hunter. They still laughed at me, but I think it was way more about where they were at than what I did.
I do not have the privilege of knowing where over there is.
Thank you so much for tuning in to our series, Thriving with Vision Loss. If you'd like to learn more about thriving with blindness or low vision, please check out eleVIVO.com. If you'd like to be featured in an upcoming episode of our Thriving with Vision Loss series, please email Michelle B at eleVIVO.com. That is MICHELLEB at ELEVIVO.com. And have the best day ever.